Greetings, everyone. Nathan Nerdarchy here from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, hanging out with some nerds.
Nerdarchy is Ted.
Nerdarchy is Dave.
And today we discuss the stuff that nightmares are made out of.
Jump down in the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. Get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
Hey guys, if you follow along Nerdarchy on the Facebook page, you'll know like once a day I try and drop a sage advice that I find cool, interesting, fun, or informative. Pretty much 9 a.m. without fail. Pretty much, every day of the week I put one out there. Well, this past week I had put one, and someone asked, how do you turn a nightmare back into a unicorn? And Perkins or Merles, I forget which one answered this particular sage advice, but they're like, you don't, because you turn it back into a Pegasus, and like they give away the blessing, a blessing in the pool of Mount Celestia or something like that, right? As an idea, and I'm like, wow, that would be a great story. Is trying to redeem a nightmare and bring it back. But I'm like, well, what kind of other stories could we tell just off of this little paragraph out of the Monster Manual? And this is one of the things that 5th edition has done really well with the Monster Manual. Is there's these awesome little pieces of lore sprinkled throughout that just totally make my imagination wander and fly.
So page 235 of your Monster Manual, the last little paragraph says, creating a nightmare. Nightmares don't appear naturally in the multiverse. They must be created from Pegasi. The ritual that creates a nightmare requires the torturous removal of a Pegasus's wings, driving that noble creature to evil as it is transformed by dark magic. Doesn't matter how many times I've flipped through, I've read stuff, whether I've read this paragraph or not, it didn't sink in until today, or until, this little tidbit dropped, and it's like, wait a second. So there's lots of things that could be done with that. And first thing that dropped into my mind was like, well, what happens if you've got some noble paladin who had a Pegasus as his mount, something happened, he got subjected to evil, and he wants to keep his mount, and he just goes full bore, does this thing, turns it into a mount.
Yeah, because they're the mounts of things like Hell Knights or Death Knights or some other kind of, it says like liches and hags and all, basically nasty stuff.
Absolutely.
That needs to be riding around.
But a Pegasus is not. And like if you're a fallen paladin, but it's like a boy and his dog. He loves his dog and he wants to take it with him, but now his dog's going to reject him because, a Pegasus is a majestic creature and they're inherently good. So what is a paladin to do that is fallen? Well, I know, perform a dark ritual and lop off its wings.
Especially if the paladin has gone through some kind of physical or spiritual transformation, so that his outward appearance changes, or he has different powers or strangeness. He'll be like, well, this is just a natural progression. Now my mount should be fitting to me.
So I actually really sunk, one of those words sunk home. It's not just cut off the wings. It says torturously remove. So to me, that's like, all right, I'm going to, cut a little bit each day, either from the base of the creature or like slowly chop it off this way, in towards the creature. That would be torturous to slowly go through it.
Do you want to go really dark for a minute here? Because I got something. All right, so you start something, probably give it some kind of hallucinogenic or something that's going to like alter its state of mind and probably make it more sensitive to things. And you're going to pluck all of its wing feathers off and put them in a pile. And then you're going to light those on fire and chop the wings off and add them to the fire, like while it's being lit on fire. And I think that would kind of like, it's flaming, and right? It's black and flaming. So it's like soot, cinders, and its hair is on fire in a sense.
So I actually had some other ideas.
Okay,
right?
What else you got?
So maybe it's not as torturous, or maybe the dark powers have to be a little more creative to remove the wings whole cloth, right? Because I'm thinking like they'd make a nifty cloak or something, like magic item. So you could definitely do it so where they fold together and almost form like a cloak, and now it's a magic item. But now the players find it, right? Well, suppose in the research they actually uncover the lore how this magic item was made, and they discover, well, they've got this sweet, sweet magic item that might be kind of like parallel to a Cloak of the Bat, but it's more Pegasi-ish type powers, right? And it's really awesome and it's cool, and they would want to keep this thing. But in, identifying it and learning its the properties and the powers, they actually learn the story and the history. These wings belong to a nightmare that's out there somewheres. That used to be a noble Pegasus. And perhaps there's even stories that go along with this particular Pegasus. Maybe he's attached to a hero that lost the Pegasus in battle, or the final thing that they did, their final deed of good, cost them both their lives, in the case of the Pegasus, maybe even worse. Maybe he was that paladin that got transformed and changed and fell, in this final act of goodness. Or maybe they just failed. But either way, now you have the wings, and that there's a nightmare out there, and you could probably maybe even use the wings to find that particular nightmare, and maybe you could redeem it. Maybe there's a story where you can actually redeem that paladin as well. This could be a whole adventure arc. This could be a whole story that could go on for quite some time. This could literally be a campaign. If the adventurers were to find it earlier enough in their careers and be like, you know what, this is a wrong that needs to be righted, and we want to fix this.
Especially, I think it would be nice if it's a good item overall, like quality-wise and abilities, and they've had it for a bit before they find out what it really is about. Because then someone's like, well, there's always going to be that guy that really likes the thing and doesn't want to actually give it up. But it's like, you're a total jerk face and evil person if you're not going to restore a Pegasus.
Yeah. Well, even if they find out right away, they could still use it for a while up until they actually can restore the nightmare to a Pegasus. Mm-hmm. And it might take a while. They might have to track it down. They might have to defeat its master. It could even be this cosmic, hunt across the plains to find this being.
Well, you're probably gonna, your luck is probably not that great to be like, well, I'm looking for a specific nightmare. I'm gonna, the first nightmare I find. Well, this is clearly it.
Just keep summoning them from the lower planes and asking them. That's not ever gonna go wrong.
Sorry, my name is Bob the Nightmare. You're clearly looking for Robert the Nightmare. Easy mistake. We get confused all the time.
God, the number of times I get called looking for Robert when I'm Bob.
There could be something where maybe the players come upon this dark ritual while it's happening. Literally, this could be the apex of an adventure where not only do they have to defeat the bad guys, but they have to do it in a time fashion to disrupt the ritual, or the Pegasi will be transformed into a nightmare. So there's a lot of different hooks you could use this for, I believe.
Yeah, the big bad guy could just simply have a series of things he desires to have happen, and getting a nightmare from the Pegasus could just be one of the little blip ups on his way to conquering the world or something.
Suppose the nightmare is about to be defeated and the players have a way to communicate with it or speak with it, or they understand languages, they don't necessarily talk, but you can choose to change that as the GM. And the nightmare goes into the story of how he became a nightmare, right? And really, he doesn't care. He just doesn't want the players to kill him. Mm-hmm. But he could use it. But he could totally use that story to dissuade the players from ending him,
right?
And be like, "I'm a victim. It's not my fault.
I'm not really evil. I was made this way.
Literally,
don't kill me. Save me."
Well, exactly. So, you could literally use it that way as a moral dilemma for the players to have to overcome.
So, I mean, you could literally, when you're using a nightmare, everything else aside, you could use this story, because if that's the way they're created, in their moment's hesitation, he gets away, and then it's up to them to whether they hunt him down to restore him, or, whether they let him go, whether he continues his, tirade of evil or not.
He could literally tell the most heartrending, horrific story, and even though he doesn't want to turn back, he's not repentant for anything he's done. He is this evil being now, but he could totally tell this story, and every single word of it would be true. And even if the players were to use detect thoughts or detect lie or whatever, you'd be like, yeah, this is absolutely true, because sometimes the best lies are the ones that are the truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and all he needs is a little bit of a moment's hesitation on that, that final sword swing, and he can just poof right out of there if
Yeah.
he needs to.
And these things, like they have the suggested stats, but what if the intelligence or wisdom is a little bit higher and they're a little bit more devious and cunning?
Well, they're already below average for most of their. Above average for most of their mentals, even superior in some things.
Mhm.
And their lowest stat is intelligence at a 10.
But,
So
I mean, with a 13 wisdom, that's got some cunning. But I mean, if you want to really drive that home, I mean, they could that they could stutter over words like it's so hard to say what happened to me, and
Do a
really
little performance.
really sell it, and it wouldn't be a perform check. I mean, they're telling the truth.
and they have the high charisma. So, yeah. So this is absolutely a fun thing to insert into your game if you want your players to have to think a little bit more, give them a moral quandary, or perhaps this is just going to be the start of a new adventure for them as they try and redeem this nightmare and bring it back and restore it to its goodly Pegasi version of itself. So, what do you guys think? Would you use this in your game? Maybe you've already used this in your game. It sounds like something Mike Gould would make an out of the box D&D encounter from, to be honest with you. But there's a place where you can let us know, and that's the comments. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can check out the articles over at nerdarchy.com.
Or you can hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.